What's up guys, Derek here with Tap and Turn Gaming coming at you tonight with an EDH deck tech. Today's deck tech is for Ezuri Claw of Progress for less than $150, and it is another installment, as you can see, of our battling with a budget theme, as we are trying to get under a budget of $150. Now this is a subscriber requested deck from one of our loyal subscribers, Chicken Lover, who wanted to see our take on a Ezuri deck, or Ezuri 2 as we normally refer to him as. So let's take a look at Ezuri first. Ezuri is a 4-cost 3/3 elf warrior. He's one of the new guys that uses the experience counter mechanic. So he says whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters a battlefield under your control, you get an experience counter. And at the beginning of combat in your turn, you can put X +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control, where X is the number of experience counters you have. He's probably one of the easiest ones to get experience counters on. Marin is probably the easiest because the creature just needs to die. But Ezuri is probably the second easiest because you don't have to cast anything. For Kalem and for Daxos and for Mizzix, you need to be casting things. He just needs creatures to enter the battlefield, which lends itself very well to either an elf type deck or a token type deck. We went more with the elf theme, but also blue-green good stuff. So let's take a look at the lands and spells and all that we chose. So for lands, we have Command Tower, Forests, 13 Forests, Halimar Depths, Hinterland Harbor, 13 Islands, Lumbering Falls, Mosswort Bridge, Oran Reef the Vastwood, Reliquary Tower, Simic Growth Chamber, Simic Guildgate, Temple of Mystery, and Thornwood Falls. Not really a lot to say about the land base. Seeing as we did have a budget of $150, we could spend a little bit more on the land and get some of the rare dual lands in there, like the Temple of Mystery and the Oran Reef the Vastwood is a nice land to have in there, especially where we're going to be having a lot of small creatures come in. So your small creatures all come in, you let them trigger Ezuri, give them all a +1/+1 counter, make them a little bigger, and that's always pretty nice. So up next we have our instants. We have Aetherize because it's a pseudo fog effect, Aether Spouts because it's also a pseudo fog effect. Capsize will be very nice as we can bounce a permanent and buy it back. Court of Calling to be able to tutor for any specific creature we need to at instant speed is very nice. Cyclonic Rift as a targeted removal and or a one-sided sweeper. And Echoing Truth. I find Echoing Truth to be really, really good, especially in commander decks, because it's a 2-cost to bounce a target non-land permanent, and that's great. And it returns all of the permanents with the same name as that permanent to its controller's hands. Its owner's hands. What makes this powerful is you can target a token and bounce all those tokens back to their hands. Or if 2 players have down the same permanent, you can bounce one and get them both. So it's pretty versatile where it is a 2-cost bounce spell, but it also has that added effect of possibly being a token sweeper. And that makes it pretty valuable in my book. For enchantments, we are running Asceticism to give our guys Shroud and to be able to regenerate. Awakening Zone for the free Gaia return, Defense of the Heart, because if you're playing green and you're playing EDH, you probably just should be playing Defense of the Heart. This is a little bit of a more expensive card, being a $10 card alone, but we, can spend a little bit more with a $150 budget. From Beyond, newer enchantment, beefier version of Awakening Zone to get the free guys as well, and Hardened Scales. Because Ezuri's going to be throwing around a bunch of +1/+1 counters, why not throw around a couple more? What really shines is the From Beyond and the Awakening Zone, just because they're going to give us these free 1/1s and 0/1s, so every single time they're going to trigger Ezuri. So if you have Ezuri out in both Awakening Zone and From Beyond, you're getting 2 experience counters a turn for free, and that's really not bad at all. For sorceries, we are running Aether Gale, because you can bounce 6 permanents for 5 mana. I think it's not a bad trade-off, especially since we have ways of getting it back and reusing it. Then we have Cultivate for some mana ramp, Genesis Wave because it's awesome, Kodama's Reach for some more mana ramp, Nissa's Expedition for some more mana ramp, Recollect and Regrowth to get back our spells from the graveyard, See the Unwritten because it's a pretty cool card. We won't likely always have the creature with power 4 or greater unless we use it main phase 2. See, what we can do is we can play a guy main 1, Ezuri gets some experience counters, declare combat, Ezuri will give them counters, don't attack, move to main phase 2, cast See the Unwritten, and probably have the Ferocious to be able to put 2 creatures onto the battlefield. And then Tooth and Nail, because if you are playing green, Tooth and Nail is almost an auto-include for 9 out of 10 decks, I'd say. Being able to tutor for 2 creatures, put 2 creatures into play, and or do both, and you can mix and match the creatures you tutor with the creatures you put into play from your hand, so it's so much versatility. For artifacts, Ashnod's Altar, Bow of Nilia. Bow of Nilia is so good, I can't get over how good it is. For a 3-cost artifact / enchantment, gives all your attacking creatures death touch. That alone almost makes it worth it. But then you can choose between one of 4 different modes. You can put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, or it deals 2 damage to our creature flying, or you gain 3 life, or you put up to 4 target cards from your graveyard onto the bottom of your library. Those modes are just awesome. Dodges graveyard hate, gets your guys a little bigger, has removal, gives your guys death touch. It's such a good artifact. Then we run the Simic Cluestone, Keyrune, and Signet, and Soul Ring, all just from 1 mana ramp. For Planeswalkers, we're going with Kiora, Master of the Depth, and Kiora, the Crashing Wave, mostly because I really like Kiora. I think she's really, really cool. She's probably one of my favorite Planeswalkers flavor-wise, and she's honestly pretty cheap. $3 and $5, and she has some cool ability to be able to untap stuff, prevent damage, put lands into play. Her ultimates make creatures, which I think it's, so yeah, Kiora the Crashing Wave, if you get her emblem, you get a 9/9 every turn. And if you get Kiora Master of the Depths, you get an emblem where every time a creature enters the battlefield, you can have it fight another creature, and you also get 3 8/8s. So, I mean, it's just really, really fun stuff. Then lastly, we have the creatures. So for creatures, we run Archaeomancer to get back our Sorcerers and Instants, Avenger of Zendikar, because he really shines in this deck, whereas if you play him straight up turn 7, then what that means is when he comes in, you're going to get 7/01 plants, which means Ezuri is going to get 7 experience counters, which means then you're going to go to combat and give Avenger of Zendikar 7 +1/+1 counters, and now he is a 12/12, and that's a real threat. Well, yeah, so that's pretty cool. Then we run Caller of the Claw. She's pretty cool when she comes in the battlefield. She brings a 2/2 bear onto the battlefield for each non-token creature put into your grave from the battlefield this turn. Really, really cool, especially at instant speed. You can sack a bunch of your creatures to generate a bunch of mana through Ashnod's Altar, cast her, and you may get 5, 6, 7 bears. The bears are all 2/2s. She's a 2/2, so all of them will give you an experience counter through Ezuri. Cloud of Fairies is in there just as a combo piece that we'll go over, but when Cloud of Fairies enter the battlefield, untap the 2 lands you control. She only costs 2 mana, so you can cast her for free. She's a 1/1. Coiling Oracle, really, really good card. 2 cost 1/1 when Coiling Oracle enters the battlefield. Reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put that card into your hand. It's a very, very good card. So then we have Deadeye Navigator, which is an auto-include in almost any blue EDH deck. But he pairs very well with Cloud of Fairies to give you unlimited experience counters with Ezuri. Because you're going to play Cloud of Fairies, you're going to untap 2 lands, that's whatever. You're going to play Deadeye Navigator, you're going to pair him with Cloud of Fairies. Now you're going to pay that 2 to flicker her. She's going to come back in, untap those same 2 lands, and keep flickering her until you have as many experience counters with you as on Ezuri as you want. And from that point, you can just start to go bananas. Then we can also, with Cloud of Fairies, we can also generate infinite mana. And the way we can do that is if you flicker her and one of those 2 lands happens to be Simic Growth Chamber. So what you can do is if you have Simic Growth Chamber and say an island, then what you can do is you flicker out the Cloud of Fairies, and you come back and you untap the island, you untap the Simic Growth Chamber, tap those again for 3 mana, so you have 1 mana floating, and it can be either blue or green, however you need it to be. So at that point you now have unlimited mana, and then you can do whatever you want. Then we have Dwine and the Guild Leaf. She's mostly in there because we run a lot of elves, and she'll give them the +1/+1, and that's more or less what she's in there. Edric, he's a 2/2, very political. Whenever we deal damage to an opponent, we're going to draw cards, and whenever our opponents deal damage to their opponents, they're going to draw cards as well, so a little bit of politics in there, and that's always pretty fun. Elvish Archdruid, another elf lord, and we can generate mana equals the number of elves we have. Just really, really nice what we need it for. Elvish Champion, along the same lines. Gives a +1/+1 to all the elves, and they get Forest Walk. Elvish Skysweeper lets us sacrifice a creature, Pay 5 mana to destroy a target creature with flying. We don't have a lot of flyers in here, so this is a way we can really remove some of the opponents. Elvish Visionary, when she comes in, we draw a card. 2 costs 1/1. Basic. Essence Warden, we're going to be generating a lot of creatures coming into play. Might as well gain some life off them. Ewit, everybody knows what Ewit does. If we're playing an Ezuri deck, we had to play Ezuri 1. He's just in there because he is Ezuri 1, and his modes are also pretty good. Genesis we put in because it's a solid card. Blue-green doesn't have a lot of recursion. This gives us some, probably the best one I have. Green Warden of Marasa is a beefier version of Eternal Witness. Immaculate Magistrate puts a bunch of +1/+1 counters on the target creature for each elf we control, so that's always very fun. Imperious Perfect is another elf lord as well as generating elves. Ivyland Denizen is pretty cool. Whenever another green creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So that's always fun. Mnemonic Wall, just another Archaeomancer. Going to get back our Sorceries and Instants. Momir Vig, Simic Visionary. With the amount of creatures we want to be casting, we really are going to be able to benefit off of his ability to be able to tutor for the correct creature we want at the correct time. We have No Mage Shepherd to be able to tap creatures to destroy artifacts and enchantments. Priest of Titania to generate mana per elf. Reclamation Sage to break all the toys. Sage of Hours, because sometimes you just have to be that guy. So Sage of Hours says you can remove all +1/+1 counters from Sage of Hours. For each 5 counters removed this way, take an extra turn after this one. So if we can get down Sage of Hours and we can get down Ezuri, we can take basically unlimited turns. All we need to do is have Ezuri, get him to 5 experience counters, pretty easy in this deck. Then we have to just have down Sage of Hours, declare combat, put those 5 +1/+1 counters on Sage of Hours, remove them, end turn, go to the next turn, declare combat, put 5 counters on them, remove them, get an extra turn. So with those 2 and 5 experience counters, we have unlimited turns. With unlimited turns, we can really not lose at that point. Then we have Sylvan Messenger to be able to tutor for sort of pseudo-tutor for elves. We just look at the top 4 cards and put all the elves into our hand. Well-Wisher to gain life per elf. Wirewood Chandler to also get mana per elf. Wirewood Herald, because when he dies you can tutor for an elf. Wirewood Hivemaster, whenever another non-token elf comes into play, we can put a 1/1 green insect into play. So we get an elf, which gives us a bug, so just more experience counters for Ezuri. Then Wirewood Symbiote, we can bounce an elf to our hand to be able to untap a green creature. Just to untap target creature. We don't use that ability once per turn, but this is going to let us reuse like our Immaculate Magistrates and our Priest of Titania, all the things like that that let us generate a lot of mana or generate some +1/+1 counters and things of that sort. Wolf Skull Shaman's pretty fun. At the beginning of your upkeep, you look at the top card of your library. If it shares a creature type with Wolf Skull Shaman, you may reveal it. If you do, put a 2/2 green wolf on the play. Just there for the off chance that we will get a free wolf, which is also a 2/2, which will also give us an experience counter off Ezuri. And lastly, we have Zamek Guildmage. We can pay 2, remove a +1/+1 counter from a creature we control to draw a card. Or we can pay 2, this turn each creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Mostly in there for the second ability to be able to draw some cards. But that's all the cards in the deck. Some of the notable combos I told you about. As you can see, it pretty much splits pretty good into blue-green, pretty heavy on the creatures. And it curves pretty nicely to turn 3, and then down out of turn 3 into turn 4, 5, 6, and 7. So once we hit turn 5, there's a very solid chance we're going to be casting 2 to 3 spells a turn. And that will really help us be aggressive. So the only other thing I have to say is that this deck comes in at $143.49, so it's under the budget of $150 that Chicken Love was looking for. So we are right where we need to be, and it actually gives you a little bit of wiggle room. And that pricing is using TCG Mid and the cheapest set that the card was printed in. And it doesn't include the price of a deck box sleeves and the general, as that's what we do with our Battling with a Budget, because if you want to play Ezuri Claw of Progress, you need Ezuri Claw of Progress. But yeah, that more or less wraps up the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This has been Derek with Tap and Turn Gaming. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you later. Thanks a lot, and goodbye.